So first of all, let's just start with two assets. What we want to do is basically build it up really gradually and simply. And what we can do is we can just start with two simple things. So you remember we can do yfinance.download. And then what we can do is we can just download two assets. And so let's just download two index ETFs. SPY is the S&P 500 and QQQ, the NASDAQ. That's the technology index. And so what we can do is we can just call this DF as a data frame. And maybe we also want to specify the start. So we say start. Maybe we start in 2004. Yep, just because it's before 2008, before the great financial crisis. So there you go. And if we go DF, what you can see here is you have open, high, low, close, adjusted close, volume. Yeah. And for each you have QQQ and SPY. Yeah. So if we do df.close, we get a data frame of QQQ and SPY, right? Pretty cool. And you can see the prices for those two are really different. One of the problems is when you plot them, in this case, they're not that different, but in many cases, they are really quite different. And the first thing is, well, let's say, in this case, they're still in the hundreds of dollar range, but if you had like some really, really low priced stuff, it would be actually kind of weird because you see kind of almost a flat line at the bottom. And then, you see something much, much more pronounced at the top here. And that's not so good. So the question is for you, first of all, what could we do to align them in a sensible manner?
I mean, I guess if we go again on the percentage change, for example,
perfect.
Then it doesn't really matter.
Yes, you're right. Exactly. So let's do this. So what we can do is we can do a df.pct change, right? And then what else do we need to do? Let's put a PCT change after the close. So now we've got a percentage change, but we want a price. Well, let's plot it. Oh, doesn't look too good. What else do we need? What we can actually do is we can just use the cumulative sum on top of it. Yep. Mm-hmm. And there we go. We've got the two aligned, basically. Now, I told you there's a difference, when you use PCT change with the cumulative sum and the cumulative product. So cumulative sum is basically also, they call it sometimes log returns. It's like as if you would not reinvest your money. And what you can actually see is, and I probably show you this, when you look at the original prices, let's just put the close there.
The S&P is higher, right?
Not necessarily, but what you can see is that see those drops mm-hmm. here, mm-hmm. and look at them here. They're much smaller, right? Mm-hmm. So the curves look somewhat different. And this is because what we're basically plotting here is what you call logarithmic returns. There's a reason for that, but we could also turn this into something that looks much more like the price series. And so instead of using the cumulative sum, we can use the cumulative product. But what we need to do is we need to add 1, because when we have the returns and we multiply them all, and they're all like zeros, they go to 0 straight away. But if we do add 1, and then we use the cumulative product, you see this. Mm-hmm. This is basically what they look like when they are aligned. See, the difference here in that slope is arising from the fact that here we just start with different starting points, right? And so if you multiply all the returns from that different starting points, right, it will actually give you this. When you start with these starting points as they are here, then you would basically see the same curves. You could actually do this, and I need to wing this a little bit. We could multiply this by df.close.ilog of 0. See? So can you see now they're perfectly aligned? So the reason is, or the reason why they were different before is because we use different starting points. And when you use different starting point at the beginning, then they're different. So it's really important, like when you deal with multiple assets, to understand all the different little permutations of how things could look like. You need to understand this first before you even start running or doing backtests, because you see those different results. Like, when we did the cumulative sum before and you showed it to someone, you said, oh, well, this looks nothing like the SPY. But then you can go, well, they're actually the log returns, they're not, or they're the returns without reinvesting. Whereas this is the returns with reinvesting. So what we see is, when we look at the actual price chart, that's actually, in a sense, the returns as if we would reinvest, right? Because we put money in, but we never take any out. So we're compounding our profits. So a normal price curve actually represents a curve with compounding profits. Whereas if we use a cumulative sum, it means that we're always taking out some money to keep the level, or we're putting in some money to keep the level of our investments, but basically our cash basis the same.